Here is some other crazy shit that my racist dad said when I was growing up. 100%, he told me, I think in high school, if I ever brought a black man home as a potential romantic partner, that he would be disappointed. He didn't say, like, don't do that, but he was like, that would be really disappointing to me. When Obama won the presidency, I was literally in middle school. I was like 12 or 13. And I used to hate being in the car with my dad because we were trapped, right? Like, we were just trapped and we couldn't get away. And like, he would really utilize his time in the car with us to like lecture and like spew this hate. And I remember he was always so pissed that Barack Obama's middle name is Hussein. And I remember him being like, Ali, his middle name is Hussein. And I was like, okay, like, I don't know what that, like, he was always expecting us to be as like outraged as him, but like we genuinely like didn't understand. I remember one time my neighbor was a black girl. Her name was Felicia. She was hella sweet. She would come over and be like, hey, can Allie come out to play, da 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 da. And I remember one time she had a sty in her eye, and like my dad saw it and was like, you shouldn't go in her house, like she's dirty. Like, do you see that she has that? Like, don't touch any of her stuff, and like, you shouldn't go in the house. Trigger warning. This is where it gets kind of like really bad, like really bad. My dad didn't think he was racist, right? Because he had like a black friend, and he used to say to me and my brother, there is a difference between black people and hard R. There is a difference between black people and black people. Dress nicely, speak white, basically. Hey, stop. Have good jobs, are educated. Those are black people. I'm fine with black people. These are thugs and ghetto and would rob you and would rape you and that whole like super predator bullshit. Like, these people they're on drugs, they're dirty. Like, that's the difference. We can be friends with black people, but like, basically they're not even people. Like, there was a very clear distinction in his mind, and he wasn't racist because he was friends with black people. He used to ask me from a very young age if I was a Democrat or Republican. The correct answer is Republican. And he would ask me that all the time growing up. Like, when I was like 10, 11, he'd be like, you're a Republican, right, Allie? And I'd be like, yeah, I don't know what that means. Like, but it was this super early indoctrination. And then specifically, I remember, this was when I was in high school, at the Thanksgiving dinner table, he called people in the Middle East sand N-word. And like, I was like, Dad, that is so messed up. Like, what are you saying right now? Like, that, do not say that. Like, what is wrong with you? And he was like, what? They are. And it was just like, it was bad. It was really bad.
But what I'm learning is the American dream is not reality for everyone, except for the privileged few. The truth is, this American dream mindset is based on white supremacy. And if you think white supremacy is just hatred for people of color, it is so much more than that. White people aren't the problem. White supremacy is the problem. David Gilbourne, he addresses the idea of whiteness. Whiteness is a racial discourse, whereas white people are a socially constructed identity. White people don't necessarily reinforce whiteness any more than heterosexual people reinforce or are homophobic. I'm betting most white people, haven't educated themselves on this idea of whiteness. We can't see the problem of white supremacy because we've lived free from it our whole life. White supremacy is our privilege. It's who we are. To call it out is to call out our very being. It's no wonder that white people get defensive.
Hello, what's up, good people? Welcome back to the channel, and I believe you're doing great from wherever you're watching this video from. So today we are talking about something that honestly I believe that Black people have known for centuries, but something that I feel white people still struggle to accept. That white supremacy is not just hatred; it is a system, it's a culture, it's a mindset, that shapes every corner of their society and all the society in general. And some of the white people you're about to hear from this video, they're actually confronting their own people like it should be. They are breaking down why white folks get defensive, they refuse to learn, and why acknowledging racism for white people feels like a personal threat to to their whiteness, to them, to their well-being. And right there is actually where the problem lies, because let's be real, Black people already know this truth, have always known this truth, have been preaching about this truth for hundreds of years. They live by it, actually. But white people must learn it, accept it, but most importantly, act on it.
Okay, I'm just gonna vent for a minute. I'm continually amazed at some of the comments I get from white people about my thoughts on white supremacy. They act like it doesn't exist, like I'm talking nonsense. I said in a recent post, if you only hang out with white people, then you're racist. A lot of them said that's a silly take, and instead of maybe looking at their own lives to question if maybe it's true, they get defensive and argue semantics like, well, people have a mostly homogenous friend group that share their same background. Yes, exactly my point. That is white supremacy. Read a book. But when I suggest that, they decline. They've clearly not educated themselves by walking in another person's shoes. Maybe the biggest problem in this for white people is that they're too afraid to admit their own role in racism because they don't want to get uncomfortable. If you've ever gotten into a disagreement with another person and it turns out that you were in the wrong, it takes a whole lot of security, humility to own your shit, to apologize. And if you can't do that, well then chances are that relationship won't last long. You will perpetuate harm. And that's what white people have done to people of color. I wonder if these white people are talking to me, a fellow white person, like this, then how are they talking to people of color who call out white supremacy? That is scary. And as a white person, I apologize on behalf of others who've caused harm, who continue to ignore the very serious problem of racism. And I know that's not enough, which is why I'm a social worker trying to do some good in this fucked up society. This is white supremacy. Figure things out on your own. Go make money. Anybody can do it. Hide, bury, ignore your emotions. This is white supremacy because this is an individualistic mindset. The opposite of that is owning the pain that you have inflicted on others and doing something about it. Maybe the biggest problem in this for white people is that they're too afraid to admit their own role in racism because they don't want to get uncomfortable. As a white person, it's one thing to talk about ending racism. It's another thing to take actual steps towards that end. I'm finding a lot of support and encouragement to keep using my voice in this fight. And at the same time, who am I to speak to this problem? I have white friends. I'm just another white dude with my own contributions to racism. So I figure let's just get into it. What's the difference between talking about it and taking action? In my last post, I captioned it, "Ignorant White People." It seems that what most of us oblivious whites get wrong is that regardless of guilt or fault, we need to admit we're uneducated on this topic. Just admit it already. If you're a white person who gets defensive, stop. History has shown us we're all guilty. I'm trying to own that and educate myself. And if you are too, start with Ibram X. Kendi's book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. I also said one of the reasons why some can't or won't take that first step is because we're afraid to get uncomfortable. It requires a hell of a lot of humility to admit you're wrong. And that's something that's just lacking across the board in our society. One of the hardest lessons I've had to learn in my life, I'm still learning, is that even when I don't think I've done anything wrong, someone else's perspective is no less true. And to wholeheartedly care for that person requires setting aside my own shit and understanding life from their point of view. So stop deflecting, excusing yourself or whatever, and get uncomfortable. Join this conversation without getting defensive. Start these discussions in your own circles. So that's a beginning, but then what actual steps do we need to take as white people? In what ways do we need to get uncomfortable? Well, this is where shit starts to get uncomfortable. Realizing the specific action to take is a challenging thing to do because we can't possibly understand what it's like to be targeted by racism. As a white person, how do I even put myself in the shoes of people of color? My privilege is attached to my skin. I can't separate from it. I mean, can we ever truly comprehend the lived experience of being abused by systemic injustices? If a friend loses a loved one and you've never experienced that pain before, you wouldn't say to them, "Oh, I know how you feel," because you don't. And if you just rambled on and on about how life goes on, you'd only make it worse. We can't know how people of color feel, so shut up and quit pretending like you do. Maybe this is where we failed people of color. We can't relate, so we buy into the bullshit we've been told our whole lives, like everybody has an equal shot. Just work hard. If you fuck up, then that's your own fault. I mean, we say things like this instead of looking at the serious offenses being committed every day right in front of us. Innocent people being murdered for the color of their skin. Concentrated areas of poverty void of grocery stores because white people won't make money if they build one there. Discrimination against people of color and getting a good education and a decent job, and on and on. Getting uncomfortable means facing the truth of this oppression, sitting down with a person of color, listening to their story, putting yourself in a setting to feel the actual weight of this atrocity, feeling it in the pit of your stomach like you just lost your whole world. When we feel that, maybe we can start to make a change. I don't see too many white people doing that work though. I'm going to be honest, I've only scratched the surface of taking these steps myself. I need my friends to keep calling me out. I have a lot more to do. We all do. And this is my journey as a human being to be committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's why I'm a social worker. It takes a whole lot of security, humility to own your shit, to apologize. And if you can't do that, well then you will perpetuate harm. And that's what white people have done to people of color. So we all know about fight or flight, right? When our nervous system senses danger, we respond by either fighting back or by running away. It's pretty obvious, pretty clear. So when certain white people are called out for their white privilege, what we know as the very covert forms of white supremacy that are still so prevalent in our society today, why do they respond with such hate? Like, they get mad at you for suggesting that. They want to fight you on it. The question is, white people, why do we feel threatened? I think you know why.
You have no idea how harmful white supremacy is. It does not just manifest in the form of overt violence, like police officers pulling the trigger or hate groups marching in the streets. White supremacy kills in the classroom, where black children are disproportionately disciplined, placed into special education, and denied access to advanced coursework due to the implicit biases of their teachers. It kills in the workplace, where black professionals are underpaid, overworked, and overlooked for promotions despite their qualifications. It kills in the doctor's office, where black patients receive lower quality care and their pain is dismissed and their health outcomes suffer as a result. It even kills in the supermarket, where black communities are systematically deprived of fresh food, forcing them into nutritional deserts that contribute to long-term health disparities. White supremacy is not just an ideology, it's a system designed to choke the very existence of black people at every level of society. And you do not have to call someone the N-word to uphold white supremacy, nor do you have to wear a hooded sheet. White supremacy operates in the mundane, the unnoticed, in the everyday decisions that maintain racial hierarchies. It exists in school curriculums that erase black history or frame enslavement as a necessary economic system. It exists in housing policies that continue to segregate communities, ensuring that black families are kept in underfunded districts with failing schools. It exists in the criminal justice system, where black people are over-policed, sentenced more harshly for the same crimes as white defendants, and disproportionately killed by law enforcement. It exists in a bail system that imprisons black people for being too poor to afford their freedom, while wealthier white defendants walk free. It exists in the environmental policies that allow corporations to pollute black communities with little consequences, shortening life expectancy without a gun ever being fired. It exists in the way white-centered narratives are prioritized and protected, while any effort to challenge them is met with backlash, censorship, and outright hostility. The danger of white supremacy lies in how normalized it has become, how deeply it's woven into the fabric of everyday life. Many people do not recognize it because they've never had to. They believe racism is only individual acts of hatred rather than the institutional and systemic forces that shape the world around them. They do not see how their silence, their comfort, and their refusal to acknowledge this system makes them complicit in its survival. White supremacy is not just the past, it is the present, and without deliberate action, it will continue to shape the future. Until people are willing to confront the depth of its harm, to see how it suffocates and destroys, nothing will change. And that is exactly how white supremacy was designed to function. And I'm sure it wants to bury this video in the algorithm too.
I want to know what percentage of gas guzzling, climate killing, noise polluting, road hogging, excessively speeding, needlessly oversized pickup truck owners are white males. Because I swear it's got to be like 99%. More proof that white people think they run this planet. All right, there are seriously harmful societal implications associated with the pursuit of expertise and higher education that have their roots in white supremacy. Here's an example, and I'll get into why this is problematic. I just saw a company vehicle that was promoting its home inspection service with the phrase Certified Master Inspector stickered on the side. We don't think much of it, like this is very normal in our society, but think about what it means to attain that title. We live in a capitalistic society where everyone is trying to sell you something. And if you can convince someone that they need what you have, you sell more. A surefire way to do that is to become the expert. But in a for-profit environment, what are the costs of earning that honor? Here's one. The process of gaining certificates and degrees, knowledge and expertise separates those with that privilege from those without. Seems harmless, and many are going to defend it, I'm guessing. But one quote-unquote benefit to this separation or authority is that it allows you to charge more money for your services. It allows you to sell more, which in and of itself isn't a bad thing. I mean, if it's a legit organization that is.
All right, so let's talk about it. So what these white people you've heard from these videos are saying is exactly what many white people will really choose to refuse to understand or to hear, that white supremacy is not an insult to them. It is a system that they benefit from. And the moment you bring it up, they respond with either fight or flight, they get defensive, they get emotional, they get scared or angry, they tend to get agitated, anything else except acknowledging, except being honest as well. And because of them, racism, to them, racism is theoretical. It's something that they just probably hear about, see, in videos like this. But, it's a theory to them. But for Black people, this is lived reality, or the reality they live in fact, every single day. When white people do not view whiteness as a construct. Yeah, because that is the point here. They don't really view whiteness as just a construct of the other day, but they feel like it is their identity. They have been duped to believe that their identity is white, where in reality it is a construct that is actually, it's like a business that's supposed to make money like any other business for the white elites. And that's why you will hear them say, well, I am poor, but at least I am not white. Because they have been made to believe that you could be poor, but you're better because you're not Black. So they say, I am poor, but at least I am not Black. So to them, they've been lied to by the system itself to believe that being white is superiority, that being white is better than being Black. So when you call out white supremacy, they feel like you're attacking their very existence, you're attacking their own identity, not the system that is built for them. And now that is why so many of them run away from these kind of conversations, not because they don't know what is happening, not because they don't see the disparities, and not because they are unaware of the world around them, but because acknowledging the truth forces them to face, the part they play in maintaining it, like silence is actually maintaining it, like not confronting it is actually you having it, maintaining it. And that discomfort is where the work begins, and that is where they try to avoid. Most white people have never stepped outside of their white bubble, so to speak. They grew up in all white spaces. They work with white people. They socialize with fellow white people. And they consume media centered on and around white people, basically, because in fact they own the system. So they control most of these spaces, be it in politics, in the media, in institutions, anywhere. So when you tell them, if your whole world is white, that's white supremacy. If you are to tell them so, they start arguing semantics because they don't want to challenge the comfort they were raised in. And some are basically so ignorant to even understand what you're saying in that case. And but here's the thing: you cannot dismantle a system you refuse to see. I mean, you cannot solve a problem you do not acknowledge that it exists. If you want to solve any kind of problem, then first of all, you have to agree, you have to see, and really acknowledge that there is a problem. So, Black people don't need lectures on racism. They've been talking about this for 400 years, more than 400 years. It's white people who need to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And maybe reading a book, just a book, or liking a Black creator, liking Black videos, videos that talk about things like this, or watching one documentary, none of that is really the work, where the work begins into the corrective measures. The real work is accountability, it's humility, and overall, it's the change in behavior, listening to Black experiences without arguing, calling out racism inside of their own families, challenging, racist comments from their own circles and their own friends and their own relatives, giving up the comfort of pretending that everything is equal for everybody. And it's learning how politics, policies, institutions, and culture reinforces white dominance in society. Because here's the truth: white supremacy is not a feeling, and whiteness is not an identity. It's a manufactured identity. It's not natural. It is a structure. White supremacy is a structure, and the structure don't fall because someone means well. I have Black friends. I don't talk about it. I don't show being racist. No, just because you think you mean well and you think you're kind to all people doesn't dismantle the structure. The structure falls when people actively partake in challenging it, in deconstructing it, even when it makes them uncomfortable to do so. So again, you cannot relate to Black experiences when it comes to the race issue as a white person. So you need to stop pretending. They need to stop comparing, and they need to stop saying we all struggle, because that's not true, because the struggle is not the same in this case, clearly. So Black people are not asking white people to feel what Black people feel, because that's not even possible. They are asking them to believe when they talk about what they face, and not to try and silence them, and don't talk about it, because not talking about a problem doesn't make the problem disappear. I always say that. So to accept the truth even when the truth doesn't make them look good. And honestly, videos like these are necessary, not for Black folks, but for them. Because Black people have carried this burden for far too long. White people need to educate white people. White people need to challenge white people. And white people need to confront the system they created to their benefit. So, my take, what these people are saying in the videos I have just shared, we have just watched, is what many white people need to hear. But from amongst themselves, one of their own should be the one that is telling them, because when Black people say it, they will always jump in and say, you're angry, you're emotional, you're divisive, But the truth is the truth. White supremacy is real. White supremacy is a construct. It's like a business enterprise that benefits white elites, And unless white people actively dismantle it, it continues. So that is what I had for you in this video. Do let me know what you think in the comment section below. Like and share this video, and I'll see you in the next video.